One of the great worship experiences I ever had in my life was the year that I spent singing in a synagogue in New York City up in Riverdale, which is just north of the river. I was a professional, or at least I wanted to be a professional singer at the time. So on Thursday night I was in choir practice at St. Luke's Episcopal Church in Darien, Connecticut. On Friday night I was in Riverdale Temple. Saturday morning I was in Riverdale Temple. And on Sunday I was in St. Luke's in Darien. Fortunately it was an Episcopal church, so I wasn't confused too much by the transition between the two. We used to have, on Saturday mornings, we would have often would have the bar mitzvah ceremonies, and we all, from your experience, will remember that bar mitzvah is the initiation ceremony for the young person. Bar mitzvah is the son of the law, and the bas mitzvah is the daughter of the law, and those took place at about the time. When 12 years old, Jesus was up in the temple. Oh, how did that work out? Which would explain why Jesus was a little confused when Joseph and Mary come and find him, and they go, what are you doing here? Well, are you surprised? I'm 12. I'm supposed to be here. We forget that Jesus was Jewish. Sometimes conveniently so. I've given some thought to all of this, and over the course of the Christmas, oh my gosh, the chaos of Christmas that it has become, Stephanie and I were in the midst of the crowds, and I actually saw a little plaque, and I'm not usually given to these little plaques, except that, things like coffee. I need coffee in the morning, and all this kind of plaques that you see. But this one struck me a little bit. It struck me enough actually that we bought it, and I put it on the wall out there in the narthex next to the bishop's picture. And the way he's standing, it looks like he's reading it. So. And if any one of you tell him I said that, you will not get a Christmas card from us. But it says on that plaque, you'll get a chance to read it, but it says, we, in this family, we do real. We do second chances. We do hugs. We do I'm sorry's. We do family. And we do love. That's important to me. It's been a part and parcel to the Christian message that we have been sharing with each other for the last, this is my 8th year here. I'm in my 8th year here. I've often thought about what is the essential nature of Christianity, and the essential nature of Christianity is, okay, these are simple little phrases. They can be read as platitudes. And I will qualify one of those. We do hugs except for those people who do not wish to be hugged. That's extremely important that we remember that, because when we do love, we have to recognize that even the language that I use, the language of family, is very difficult for people. Families are not always places of safety. They're not always places where mom and dad are protection. They're not always these kinds of things. But what's important is that we have experienced in the church year, we've experienced the birth of Jesus Christ. We remember it. We are given this particular period of time to think about the birth of Jesus Christ. And Jesus was not born in isolation. Jesus was not born, yes, he was born in a stable, but there were people all around him. His mother and his stepfather were right there with him. And we have tradition that the wise men came to be with him, and the shepherds. These are the stories that are bound together in Matthew and Luke. And both Matthew and Luke also give to us that long list of begats, where so-and-so begot so-and-so begot so-and-so begot Jesus. And the reason that we have those begats, and I don't mean to be disrespectful when I say so-and-so begot, I don't. But we have those begats because not only was Jesus born not in isolation, but he was not born out of nothing. Jesus was born out of a long tradition of historical theological structure. And at the root of that historical theological structure is the terminology that we have here today, the terminology that we love. That wonderful expression, doesn't it touch you a little bit when you read it or think about it, that Mary, what does it say? His mother treasured all these things in her heart. It's about love. It's about relationships. And for all these years that we have been together, it's been important for me that we talk about relationships. That we talk about this theology that we have in terms of relationships. Not just the philosophical arguments that put us into the center of debates on television or yelling at each other on Facebook. It's about relationships that are engaged in love, where we do real and where we do respectfully hugs. Jesus, when he was back in that temple, was engaging in the context of his faith structure. On Sunday mornings, we are here in the context of our faith structure. And I think that we are reminded by all of this that our faith structure is always in context. It always has to be in context. It has to be in how we are raised. It has to be in the connections that we have. It has to be in the people that we emerge from and bury ahead of us. It has to be in those people who come from long ways to be with us at this time of year. It has to be in all of those things. It cannot be without them. And as we enter into this season in which the young person Jesus is emerging and growing and becoming in the historical nature of the traditions of the church, into that person that God is creating him to be, we also are doing that. We also are emerging into those persons that God is creating us to be. And the way that that happens, again, my brother and sister, is through the nature and efforts that we all share. That we all share. I don't have to tell you that families look different today than they did even a year ago. But they certainly look different from 50 years ago. And 100 years ago. And 2,000 years ago. As we move together into the new year, and as we merge our wishes and hopes and dreams together in the new year, I want us to remember that we are reminded of our context. We come here and sit together on Sundays. What is that about? How does it shape us and form us? And through this shaping and forming, how do we go and shape the world? It does not mean, when I talk about context, it does not mean that you are to believe what I believe. I've said this 100 times. It does not mean that you are to live your life in the way that I live my life. I know too much about me to wish that upon you. But the fact is that when I walked into the door of this church those 7 or 8 years ago, I felt as if I came into a context of richness and value. And that has proven true over the years. And I want you to understand how beautiful that is. And never lose touch with that. And let it always feed you and warm you and walk with you, so that no one is surprised when they discover that you are a part of this community. So that no one is surprised that you are who you are. And you are formed out of what you have been formed from. He is Alpha and He is Omega. He is the source and the end. We are the continuing story.